Hey, what's up guys, you good Gypsy, and we're back here today for NPL Week 8. Very exciting game going up against my good friend Jolt. For those of you guys who may not know who Jolt is for some reason, he is easily one of the best players in the format. I've known him for a long time now, and he's consistently performed very well throughout the whole time I've known him. He is obviously the commissioner of the NPL, the best commissioner out there of course, and yeah, he runs a tight ship, everyone loves him, and he has the skill to back it up. He has a really solid draft this season. It's a very Jolt type draft, a draft that really suits his playstyle. Jolt's a really creative builder. He's someone who I really enjoy watching in terms of creativity and really just smart, clever building. He always has a plan. He always identifies his win cons and plays to execute them correctly, and it's just really great to watch. A team like his, yeah, it's just devastating in the hands of a player like him who can really get creative and effective with that sort of team. He's got the Mega Houndoom, of course, as you see on the screen there. He's also got stuff like Jirachi and Terrakion, which are pretty nasty, bulky offensive mons, like really strong as well. Terrakion with the Z move. He's got fast speed on his team with Crobat and Superior. He's got some really solid bulk with the likes of Cresselia, Guja, and Gramble. And Swampert too as a solid rocker, as well as Rotom Wash, which actually has a fantastic matchup versus me, being able to check the likes of Landorus with certain sets and Celesteela. And then he's got threats like the Zangoose in the back, which, although it didn't come to this match as you can see on screen, it is a very big threat, and it does mitigate his weakness to T-Spikes that his team has at this point in time. Although earlier on in the season he was a bit more weaker to T-Spikes, but at this stage he's kind of he's made some swaps. He's made some trades and free agents that have kind of alleviated that weakness a little bit. But Zangoose is nonetheless a nice deterrence to T-Spikes. So yeah, we got a big challenge on our hands this week. Jolt is a very good player, and I don't actually have time to do a team builder this week. This is very late. I'm recording this. It's like half a day before it needs to go up, so I've just come home from work. I hope you guys can understand that, but I will be going over my team that I have brought this week in some detail as we go through. So the first mon that we have this week is my Hydreigon. So it's a Scarfed Hydreigon this week. Pretty solid in this matchup, to be honest. Revenges a lot of his offense, stuff like Houndoom after rocks. Even without rocks, it's a really good role in my favor to kill with Draco. Handles stuff like Jirachi if it's not scarfed. Crobat does not appreciate a Draco. Stuff like Superior does not appreciate a Draco. I do have U-turn on this set, so U-turn grabbing momentum is really solid versus Jolt's team. But being able to fire off Dracos is just very nice. As you can see, he doesn't have a Draco immunity on his team. He's got Jirachi, but of course Jirachi isn't really going to be wanting to switch in all too often on Hydreigon if he fears, me clicking Dark Pulse. It's just a very nice Revenger in this game, and he did have Gramble in the back, but obviously Hydreigon does get stuff like Flash Cannon, which kind of deters Gramble from being a switch in. Just a very nice mon in this matchup. It does provide me with some sort of, safeguards or something like a boosting Houndoom, like an out of control Superior. Even like a banded Terrakion. It's always nice to have things in the back. Because my team is quite slow for the most part, it's nice to have a mon in the back that can outpace those really powerful offensive threats. So the next one we have on the team is Landorus. It's a pretty bulky offensive set this week. Rocking U-turn mainly. U-turn, EQ, like Stone Edge. Nothing too crazy about this Lando set, but it is pretty nice versus some of his threats like Terrakion. Houndoom, I can live a Fire Blast from Houndoom. If he's HP Ice, I'm not really going to be wanting to stand on that, but yeah, it's a pretty solid mon in this matchup. Softens the blow from stuff like Terrakion, stuff like Zangoose, can deal huge damage to Guja with Earthquake, and takes on stuff like Crobat as well with a Stone Edge. Then we have a Spidef Togetic, really nice Hitmon. I don't think I mentioned this in my last video, but I did make my last free agent trades of the season going into this week. So as you guys can see on screen, I do have a Tangrowth. So formerly I had a Decidueye in the prior weeks, but as of last week or this week, I was approached by David, who actually offered me Tangrowth in return for Decidueye. Really, really sad to see Decidueye go, because I do love that mon and I think it's fantastic in the format. I was loving using it, but Tangrowth is a nice, a nice obnoxious weed that is nice to have on the squad. Provides me with a lot more defensive utility than Decidueye kind of did. Decidueye also put in the work. I'm not going to talk bad about that mon. I love that thing, but yeah, Tang is really nice. Regenerate is a nice ability. Synergizes really nicely with the rest of the squad. Although I do lose a spin blocker and a ghost type, Tangrowth's utility that it offers is worth it in my opinion. We also did trade away Licky. Unfortunately, my boy Licky, one of my favorite mons in general, had to trade that away, as well as Throw. Throw wasn't really doing anything. I didn't really see it coming to any matches, but I did pick up a Alolan Persian, which brings a really nice speed to my team, bringing me that nice 115 as well as Parting Shot. It's not my Z-move mon, so it can't Z Parting Shot, but it has a few techs up its sleeve. It's a mon that I've really wanted to try out for a while now. And in the last slot, obviously, we do have Togetic. So Togetic offers roll compression in the form of Defog, Nasty Pass, and Cleric, so it fulfills roles that both Licky and Decidueye performed, and yeah, it brings a nice a secondary fairy to the team, which is always nice. Does compound some weaknesses that I do already have on the squad, but for 4 points, it wasn't bad in that slot, and it does give me a form of hazard removal, even though I've literally not brought removal to any game this season, I don't think, and yeah, it hasn't really failed me yet, but yeah. Pretty nice changes. We'll see if they come in clutch for the remainder of the season and into playoffs. So that is Togetic. Pretty nice defense, especially defensive set this week. Does allow me to check stuff like Superior, as well as Mega Houndoom. I've got T-Wave on this set, and that's something I think Jolt is going to be aware of, and it's going to come into play later on as we do get into the match. But yeah, Togetic is just really nice. It takes like it's a roll to do over 50% with +6 offensive Superior's Leaf Storm, to put into perspective how bulky this thing is. It takes easily under half from Fire Blast. It does like high 20s, early 30s if it gets a high enough roll from max special attack Houndoom's Fire Blast. So yeah, this thing is ridiculous. It's so fat. Just a very nice mon in this matchup in particular. Also does allow me to check stuff like a Calm Minding, Cress, or Curse Goodra as well. If he wants to bring that nice Goodra set we brought in finals, we have double fairies in the back, so it won't actually work out if he's like Calm Mind, Rest, Dragon Tail. The next one we have is my Weakness Policy Autonomized Celesteela. So this is a mon that can, depending on the speed tier of his Crobat, actually 6-0 once I get an Autonomize up and once I have my Weakness Policy procced. So I have Heavy Slam, Autonomize, EQ, and I think the final move was... I'm not sure what the final move was, but it doesn't really matter as we don't click it this game. Either way, it can put in a ton of work, and you're going to see whether or not it works out. If I get my Weakness Policy procced, I do essentially like Oko everything on his team, barring Resist Berries. If rocks are up, then nothing is really safe. Stuff like Swampert can obviously live like a +2 EQ or a +2 Heavy Slam, but I didn't really feel like he'd bring Swampert, and I think I may have had Energy Ball in this set as coverage. Yeah, no, I did have Energy Ball for the Rotom and the Swampert, so that's why this set is such a threat versus Jolt. And the next mon we have is my Bulky Diancie. It's my rock setter this week. It also revenges a ton on his team, being able to revenge stuff like non-Scarf Terrakion, firing off powerful Moonblasts. I have Earth Power. I have Earth Power for the Jirachi, I think, on this set. It's not going to do a ton if he's Spidef, which I am expecting. I'm expecting something like Shuka Jirachi to check not only Landorus but the Diancie as well as potential EQ Celesteelers, which could definitely come to this game from Jolt's perspective. And the last one I have on the team is my defensive Tangrowth. Pretty nice response to stuff like Terrakion, which I felt as though he would bring this week. And yeah, defensive Tangrowth also takes on the likes of Swampert and Gramble, as well as Zangoose quite nicely. So that is the team I'm bringing versus Jolt. I expected something similar to what he's brought today. As you guys can see, he's got the Surf, the Rotom, the Tarak, the Houndoom, the Jirachi, and the Crobat. So he's got a lot of speed. A lot of speed actually. So I expected the Rotom to come for sure. It's just, as I mentioned, matches up so nicely versus the likes of Landorus and Celesteela, as well as the majority of my team. Tarak, pretty solid breaker versus me. Houndoom revenges a lot of my offense. Rachi, mandatory check to stuff like Diancie. Even Landers if it is Shukaberry. Crobat is a really nice disruptor versus my team. If it is U-turn, it can cause a lot of chaos with the likes of Taunt, Super Fang, U-turn. Serp also revenges a lot of my offense with Leaf Storm. So that's pretty much what I thought he'd bring. Thought potentially Cresselia could come in this matchup as a catch-all check to stuff like Diancie and Landorus. With Ice Beam, it can shoot hits from Diancie with ease, and Ice Beam to just blow back the Lando. I thought that was potential, but Crobat is also really nice in that slot. So I'm just going to lead off with my Diancie here. I want to get up rocks. I want to pressure this Crobat. If this is defog bat, I want it to be pressured to come in on rocks. It can't safely defog versus my Diancie unless he's like offensive Steel Wing, which is nice. And I can always fire off Diamond Storms versus the Crobat. We're going to lead off with the Diancie. If he does lead off with Rotom, which was a possibility, something I saw in a few mocks, I'm bulky enough to take a Hydro from uninvested Rotom, so that's pretty nice. Even if he is slightly invested, I can still tank. I got a ton of HP in my Diancie, so I'm going to lead off with Diancie. The fact that I do have stuff like Hydreigon and Tangrowth in the back makes me think that Jolt will not just fire for Hydro turn 1, as he will lose a ton of momentum. If I'm like a Solvest Tang, even if I'm not a Solvest Tang, if I'm just like defensive Tang or any variant of Hydro really, I get a lot of momentum coming in on his Hydro, so I am expecting him to play quite aggressively versus me. I also know, like, I've made comments to Jolt about how he played versus Abe and how he kind of showed that he was comfortable playing really aggressively, and it did work out for him. So I know that he's aware that I typically see him as a defensive player, so he may expect me to predict him to make the safe play turn 1 of just Hydroing versus my Diancie. So I also have shown a tendency to run Protect on my Diancie, so I feel as though he will Volt here. If he's choice locked, he's hardly going to stay in Hydro here. It's going to lose him a ton of momentum, and I'll be able to get valuable information. I don't think he's like choice specs or like too offensive, so I'm just going to Sand and Rocks here, as he does just go for the Volt Switch. So he's not a Scarf variant. This Volt Switch reveals that he is he's definitely not uninvested, because 29 was too high a roll to be from like a just the defensive bulky Rotom. So that's interesting. I've got to pay attention to that for the remainder of the game. I get my rocks up though, which is really nice. Now Houndoom, Crobat, going to be taking that 25. Rotom's going to be getting chipped down, putting in closer in range of Energy Ball from my Celesteela, and Serp is going to be taking that nice 12% chip, which is really important, putting it closer and closer in range of my Hydreigon's Dark Pulse. So he's going to switch out now into a Superior. Pretty nice like offensive switch on his part, because now I'm forced to bring in the response to his Serp, and if he is knockoff, he knocks off my Assault Vest from Tangrowth, an item like Lefties from Celesteela, or my Eviolite from Togetic, as he does go for the knockoff here. So very nice play. Making the nice read that I'd switch out there. Obviously, not wanting to, like, no man stays in there and clicks Moonblast versus this threat. Although it would have been a really nice play, it just wasn't worth risking it. As you can see, Diancie puts in a ton of work, and if his Houndoom is not HP Steel, then Diancie can take that on as well. So that's quite nice. He's going to go for the knockoff here, remove my Eviolite. And that's obviously unfortunate for Togetic in terms of walling the Houndoom later on. I still effortlessly take on the Serp, but it does mean that I can be whittled down much easier by the Houndoom, so that's unfortunate, but I wasn't going to risk Diancie taking a Leaf Storm there, as now he is going to switch out into his Rotom, and I make a double out into my Celesteela, expecting him to either go Jirachi or Rotom on my T-Wave, or my attack from Togetic. Really, I wasn't probably going to attack versus a Serp, but firing off a T-Wave there was a play that I was more likely to make, and I did expect Jolt to either go into Rotom or the Jirachi, expecting some sort of like attack from my Togetic, but kind of more like something that made more sense that turn was me going for T-Wave, and him going Jirachi risked losing his Jirachi essentially, or gimping it to a T-Wave. I felt like he would make the play of going to Rotom to scout, because Jolt is a very smart player, as I mentioned earlier. He's aware that stuff like Togetic obviously gets T-Wave, so him going Rotom to scout, he really lost nothing there, because he just got a free Volt the next turn. as I'm probably not going to bring Landorus in versus this Rotom when I have stuff like Hydra and Tangrowth in the back. So had I gone for T-Wave there, he gained a lot of momentum. We do catch him there with a double, and the thing is though, from Jolt's perspective, it doesn't look like I've caught him with a double, because switching Celesteela in on a Rotom, you know, it doesn't look like it benefits me, but of course we are weakness policy Celesteela. So we do get this Rattata just to autonomize up this turn, as I do expect him to go for the Volt Switch, capitalizing on my switch out there to Hydra or Tangrowth. He pops my weakness policy as he goes into his Jirachi here, and I fire off my Autonomize. So now we're in a spot, if this Jirachi is not sugar, it dies, and yeah, Celesteela starts going on its rampage, but you're going to see Jolt has the prep on deck. He does have the Sugar Berry. That's okay though, this weakens Jirachi to the point where Diancie is looking like more of a threat. It also puts him in range to die to a Dark Pulse if he's like Spadef of some sort, and this also pressures him from going for rocks, which is really important, because if he lets me autonomize up once more and he's not T-Bolt, I outspeed the Crobat. If he takes me out here and if he focuses on attacking me, then he doesn't get up rocks. And if this is his rocker as opposed to being Terrakion, which I don't expect it to be his rocker, I expect it to be like some sort of SD breaking set, which makes a lot of sense versus my team, then this Jirachi is likely his rocker, and as a result, the immediate threat of a +2/+2/+2 Selly in his face is probably going to make Jolt want to attack this and take it out, as opposed to setting up rocks, which is going to allow my team to switch into hits a lot easier, as we're going to see in the match. So he's going to go for Icy Wind here. Pretty nice tech, makes sense in conjunction with Shuka to check stuff like Landorus. Make sure Landorus never gets out of control versus his team, although he does have stuff like Cresselia and Rotom, so offensive Landorus isn't the most amazing set versus him. But he's going to go for the Icy Wind here. This turn I'm going to autonomize up, as I know I will be able to live another Icy Wind and outspeed the Jirachi the following turn after autonomize, and I will just be able to click Earthquake here. Now I heavily contemplated going for the Heavy Slam here, expecting him to preserve his Jirachi, you know, for my Diancie later on, and go out into the Crobat here. I really could have clicked Heavy Slam, but I do choose the EQ here. I do choose the EQ. If he did stay in and take me out with Celesteela, I was in a worse position than trying to take out his Crobat, because trying to take out his Jirachi here, because if he does switch out to Crobat and he outspeeds me at +2, that confirms that he's more than likely an offensive bat or just a really fast, bulky bat. And I will be able to tell if he has leftovers like Black Sludge. I'll be able to gain information on that, and it will help me play around it accordingly later on with stuff like my Diancie. If he's like a Life Orb set, then that probably means he has Steel Wing to revenge my Diancie. It's going to give me some valuable information, and although my Celesteela won't accomplish as much as it could do if I take out the Crobat here, I literally just win actually, because nothing on his team can outspeed me, and I Oko Rotom with the Energy Ball from this range. Unless his Terrakion has like Banded Quick Attack, then I live out like Life Orb Quick Attack. Unless his Houndoom has Sucker Punch. I do win here if I click Heavy Slam, but on the flip side of that, I do gain a lot of important information if I take out the Jirachi here. So I am going to click Earthquake. He's going to go out to his Crobat, and we are not going to be able to outspeed the following turn. He fires off the Heat Wave, and he takes Life Orb. So this is important. This means that his Crobat is indeed offensive, as seen by the Life Orb damage. He probably has Steel Wing. I'm gonna go out on here and say that. He probably has some way of hitting my Diancie or Hidden Power Steel. This is good to know. And he has crept. He actually told me after the game he crept a Scarf Goth, which was a good prep on Jolt's part, because Scarf Goth is a massive threat to Jolt's team. Like being able to trap Goth, Tarak, being able to trap a slower Crobat is really nice too, and I can trap stuff like Rotom. I can trick at a Scarf, which isn't too good versus me honestly, but I can trap a lot. I can trap stuff like Cresselia, Goodra, Swampert, allowing one of my other mons to sweep his team. But yeah, he's going to go for Heat Wave there, take out my Celesteela, which is fine. Obviously, if we did have a bit more speed in my Celesteela, I would have been able to just outspeed the following turn. But I opted to go with a bit of a bulkier spread, with a bit more offenses in both my special attack and my attack. So that's alright though, we get some important info. The Jirachi is weakened, and it has been deterred from setting up rocks, so my team is pretty free in that regard. Nothing really gives Jirachi a free rocks apart from Togetic, so gonna have to be careful with that. I'm going to go for Dark Pulse here in case he made the switch out to his Jirachi. If he's like a bulky Jirachi, a really Spadef Jirachi, a Draco into a -2 Draco did not actually kill, even after rocks, so I didn't want to risk that. I knew that my Hydreigon could take any hit from this Crobat, even if I didn't kill with Dark Pulse. As you see, Air Slash does 36, so measly damage. We take out the Crobat. That is one of the biggest threats on his team, funnily enough, gone. Because, yeah, Crobat's just a bit irritating for my team to deal with. As now in comes the Tarak, and I am going to switch out hard into my DNC. Jolt's sort of in the back, because he hasn't been able to get up rocks with his Jirachi. Like, that's actually more significant than it may look. And if for some reason this Terrakion was his rocker, going for rocks there versus my likely Lando or Tangrowth switch-in would have made a lot of sense, because rocks like really pressure my team. Like at this point in the game, rocks are big for Jolt if he can get them up. So me going hard into DNC deters rocks once again if he is rocks, and it also deters him from setting up and firing off a +2 Z move versus my Tangrowth. So we get in there. He does go for the Swords Dance as I bring in my DNC, and now I will be able to just go for the Moonblast. I click Moonblast this turn as Jirachi comes in now. This DNC actually doesn't have Earth Power. I think I made a mistake earlier when I mentioned that. It does have Protect in its last slot, or another move, I think. I contemplated Earth Power for a long time, but then I decided to change it to another move. I think I changed to Light Screen actually to aid in Celesteela's setting up. Like I Light Screen, and then I come in later with an Autonomize up. But I don't really want to risk the Moonblast. Like, that did 20.8. And he is at 20, but I don't really have a reason to risk it. If anything, this turn he's going to go for the Flash Cannon versus my DNC. So I'm pretty safe to bring in my Hydreigon here. I don't think he's going to Icy Wind, as I could just reveal the Earth Power. And, you know, it's in his best interest to just stay in there and try and kill my DNC. So I do get my Hydra in fairly safely. Obviously we take a bit of chip, but this health doesn't really matter too much on Hydreigon. As long as I'm out of Sucker Punch range from Houndoom, I'm looking in a pretty good spot. As now we will just be able to fire off the Draco just in case he went out into his Tarak, trying to capitalize on a Dark Pulse from me. Dark Pulse would have been like the safest play, not wanting to risk missing Draco potentially, so he could have made a really offensive play. And Jolt's in the back here, so he does, like, in a sense he does need to make like aggressive reads to come back. So I go for Draco just to cover that potential play, and I was comfortable with making taking that risk there. As if he did go out into Houndoom as well, I got big damage off with the Draco, took him out after rocks. So his Rachi's down, he's going to go into his Terrakion here, and this turn I am going to go out into my Tangrowth, as he does make the double into his Superior. So what going Tangrowth allowed me to do there was scout for a double on his part out into Serp, or Rotom, which pressures my DNC. If he's an Assault Vest Rotom, that could kind of check DNC. And if he makes the switch out to Superior, he doesn't know my Tangrowth set. Tangrowth can take, you know, any one hit from this Superior. Even though I am defensive, I can still take a Leaf Storm or an HP Fire, obviously from full. It covered that. It also covered his Terrakion going for the Z move there, predicting my DNC to come in one more time, or even going hard into my Landorus to make, like, if I am defensive Landorus, I can also come in on Tarak, easily take a neutral Z Stone Edge. So Tang was a pretty nice play there. We do get him with the double there, as he does bring in his Serp. Now I'm just going to fire off a Sludge Bomb here. No reason not to. Like, if he went hard out into Rotom or Houndoom, I got nice chip off as well as some more information, which is always nice. He's going to go for Leaf Storm, revealing that he is actually Life Orb. I'm going to go for Sludge Bomb here, and I get the Poison. So pretty unfortunate for Jolt that I did get the Poison. Of course I had Togetic in the back to switch into the following hit, meaning Serp would die to Life Orb Recoil. He would have done like 10% to Togetic. You know, he would have done like nothing to Togetic with a Hidden Power Fire or a Hidden Power Ice, because Togetic is so naturally bulky, and HP on Togetic is kind of irrelevant for the rest of the game, as you can see. But had he Synthesis there, for example, I still had like a switch into my Togetic, which beat Serp 1v1. So that Sludge Bomb was definitely unfortunate, but I feel like it just spread up the inevitable. You have to watch Jolt's side of the match to see if he felt like that Sludge Bomb mattered. Obviously I had Scarfed Hydra in the back, and my Togetic beat Serp 1v1 every single time. So yeah, I don't feel like that Sludge Bomb was relevant in the outcome of this game. So he's going to go out into his Houndoom here. I'm just going to make the switch out into my Togetic, as he's going to Mega Evolve and fire off the Fire Blast. That does 42, so Togetic, it's not holding its Violite, and it still takes under half from Fire Blast, so that's pretty nuts. I am this turn just going to fire off a Seismic Toss just in case he taunted me here. Obviously I could Roost Up, trying to rely on him missing Fire Blast, but I've got no reason to really. Like, clicking Seismic Toss is my play. It covers him taunting as well, it covers him switching out as well, which is nice. Had no reason to risk him going Rotom there, absorbing the T-Wave, and just firing off a Volt Switch. I gain more by just clicking Seismic Toss that turn, so he's going to take out my Togetic here with the Dark Pulse. I've left this Houndoom at a range of health where I can only switch in once again on rocks, and my Hydreigon is looking like a real menace to the rest of his team. So I'm just going to drop a Draco here, take out the Houndoom, and this is going to bring in the Terrakion. This is the turn I am going to go hard out into my Landorus, get the Intimidate drop, as he does actually go for the Rock Polish. So Jolt told me after the game this was actually a weakness policy Terrakion, so I was fearing Z-Move. Well, I was respecting Z-Move, I was giving Z-Move Terrak the respect it deserves, because that thing is a monster. He was actually, I think, he told me he was Double Dance weakness policy, which is a really clean set versus me. Very nice being able to get the weakness policy proc on weaker hits like Giga Drain from Tangrowth, which won't actually kill Terrakion from full, as well as like Dazzling Gleam from Togetic, or even like a Heavy Slam from Celesteela won't kill Terrakion either if I'm like a defensive set. So pretty nice, pretty funny that both our boosting win cons are weakness policy variants as well. So that's I don't think I've seen that in a match before. That's pretty funny. But yeah, he's going to go for the Rock Polish this turn, as I am just going to fire off an EQ. I'm guaranteed to take out the Terrak with this EQ, but he makes a switch out to his Rotom. Perhaps an obvious play, you could say, but if he was like Life Orb, Hidden Power Ice, he could have potentially thought he could have taken out a like an offensive Lando there with a crit or something like that. So I just go for EQ. I've got no reason to predict this Rotom coming in. I gotta respect the threat that Terrak is. As this turn I can. I am running a bit of speed on my Landorus, so if he's like a real defensive Rotom, I can just go for the U-turn here and outspeed and get momentum back out into my Tangrowth. If he is if he's like a defensive Rotom as well, he can't kill me with Hydro, even if he does have a bit of special attack investment due to my bulk. So I'm gonna go for U-turn here. He actually outspeeds and goes for the Signal Beam, so that's he gets a crit there. Obviously it doesn't really matter. This is going to allow me to bring in my Diancie. So he expected me there to go out into my Tangrowth. He told me he was actually after the match he told me he was Expert Belt, and that was something I felt was a possibility during earlier in the match when he vaulted versus my Celesteela. It did a lot more damage than it should have if he wasn't a boosting item. After seeing the initial damage versus my Diancie in the beginning of the game, I determined that he wasn't like Zap Plate or anything like that. But obviously the Expert damage was not present that turn, but Expert Belt damage was revealed on my Celesteela earlier on in the match. So my Diancie is going to come out here, fire off a Moonblast, and be able to clean up this game. So very fun game. A very fun game versus Jolt. I think very happy with the way the team worked out. I think he played very well too. I think I just caught him on a few doubles which really set him back. The Celesteela was a big problem for his team because it allowed Jirachi to not to set up rocks, which was pretty crucial. He told me Jirachi was his rocker after the game, and the immediate presence of Celesteela as a threat to his team meant that he had to take care of that before he could think about getting up rocks. So we were able to bring stuff like Diancie and Landorus in a couple of times on the Terrak, which prevented it from really doing anything this game. So yeah, that was a very fun game. Definitely go and check out Jolt's side of the match. We may well face again in playoffs. Playoffs is really hype at the moment. Like there's a lot of guys going for that 4th place in our conference. I think the first 3 spots are locked at this point, so we do have playoffs locked at this point in the season. But I know a few other guys are fighting for that 4th place, and Jolt is definitely one of them. So yeah, we may face him again in playoffs. Definitely always fun to play Jolt, and he's a guy I respect a lot in the format. So we'll see. It will be interesting if we end up facing him again, but if we do, it's sure to be a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out Jolt's side of the match, and let me know what you thought in the comments of this game. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time.